This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Jeff Gardner.
Welcome to another episode of the Good Neighbor Podcast. Today we have another good neighbor on, Jessica Williams of TMG, the mortgage group. Jessica, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Jeff. I'm delighted to be here.
Wonderful. And I can tell by that smile, that is a wonderful smile. Let's get started right from the top. We've all heard about mortgage agents and mortgage companies before, but that doesn't mean that we know everything about it. I would argue we know there's a lot to be known. Let's say that. So tell us, what is TMG, the mortgage group, Jessica?
TMG, the mortgage group, is one of the oldest mortgage brokerages in Canada. We cover coast to coast, and it was originally developed by a couple who were in the mortgage industry. And just for the sake of those that may not know, mortgage brokers match buyers and lenders, or people who need mortgage financing, which is connected to a home or rental property or investments or commercial property, with lenders. And the founders of the company were in the business for a while, and they saw a lot of challenges with the traditional system and the lending facilities that were available, and wanted to do something different that wasn't available. And they took all of their hurdles and frustrations and masterminded with a good couple of folks to say, how can we do this better? How can we make this easier for borrowers? And how can we make this easier for brokers in the industry? And that birthed TMG, the mortgage group. It originally started out west in BC, and they began to expand because the model took off so wonderfully. And about 30, just a little over 30 years, maybe about 31 years ago, they landed in Ontario, and then now we're all the way out to the East Coast. So we went west to east, and basically built a family culture of people in the industry, whether it's a mortgage agent or a mortgage broker. And we even have, sub-advisors that work with us in the commercial space. But it is a family community where we really do thrive at supporting one another, working with one another, ultimately to help people find mortgages, get creative financing, put families in homes, and do it in a way that is going to be easier, less stressful, and much more feasible and valuable for them as a borrower experience, rather than just going through all of the stress and strain of the traditional channels that have previously been available in the market.
I love it. So for me, because we do work with a number of local mortgage agents and brokers, but still I try to learn as much as possible. I love to learn. I think it is our species' superpower, the ability to learn, take that knowledge and adapt and become better. You correct me if I'm wrong. I'm trying to summarize that first piece of what you said, that I am looking to borrow money, and you are pretty much the expert guide to help me navigate that situation and get the money from the lender that I'm looking to get. So mortgage agents aren't the ones with the money. Mortgage brokers aren't the ones with the money. The big banks are, or other lenders are. I guess it's based on credit, the person that you can or cannot get lending from, borrow money from.
Great question. Doesn't always, the determining factors aren't always good credit. Sometimes it's the type of income. The qualifying income. A lot of challenges we're seeing now, which I'm sure we'll get there in the course of this conversation, is business for self or self-employment income, especially in the post-COVID world where everybody seemed to build a business, me included, during COVID. And I see you included, especially with this Good Neighbor podcast that came up in 2020. So that qualifying income is a big way of qualifying. Credit score is definitely a big way, but this, again, disenfranchises a lot of people. Well, I have bad credit, I can't get lending, I can't get a house. And that's not true. There's lenders who cater to people that have bruised credit or have been through bankruptcy or even double bankruptcy. But there are so many factors to the parameters of lending, which is why it can be such a daunting experience for somebody just blissfully thinking they can maybe walk into a local bank and get what they need, and then they're disillusioned with a no way, this is totally outside of your scope, when meanwhile there are so many other options. So the real pivot and value of the brokerage system is to say, tell me what you need and I will find out how we can meet that need. And if we can't, we will make a strategy, the fastest strategy to one of these solutions, and then work on getting you into the better solution as we go along. So it's a tremendous value that really helps people get to where they need to go and are oftentimes told they will never get there.
I love it. Fantastic. And so what is your role at the mortgage group?
So I'm a broker. And so my job is that, matching and researching and finding valuable and creative solutions and best solutions for homeowners, probably like yourself, and probably many of the people that are listening online. Maybe there are first-time home buyers, there are homeowners, there are people who have no mortgages at all, but would like to use the equity in their property as the ability to go and make investments in other real estate property. And then there's people who do have a lot of money that would like to invest their money in mortgages to help people get mortgages, private mortgages that they otherwise wouldn't.
Like
be able
private
to get.
investors? So really, if I was sitting on like, a bunch of millions.
Yes.
And I could be like, hey, Jessica, I want to make a sound investment and also use my capital to help people get mortgages. That's something I can do.
100%.
Wow. I didn't know that.
100%. Yes. And so that opens up the very large spectrum for me in the types of people that I can work with, help, and assist them in helping others. And so it's very broad-based. A lot of my relationships are actually all of those. So it's been a pretty big mix of my ability to do that. And there's a lot of different things. I mean, one of my clients is building homes, and he's just building them sort of one at a time. And I was able to provide construction financing, and then he sold and built another one. And now he's, building two at a time. And that was a dream that he had in his heart, to start building homes and build a home building business. He's out in the East Coast, and there's a lot of need. We are in a housing shortage, and especially out in the East Coast. And through creative financing and construction loans and being able to understand the system and cast the vision for the lenders to say, hey, this is the project, this is the dream, this is the experience that goes behind it. We have a little bit of track record here. Could you fund this project? And, maybe one lender says no, but another lender sees the value and the potential and says, yeah, I want to get behind this project. I want to help this person, help all the people that he's going to help. And then it becomes a very rewarding set of experiences that really move away from a transactional type of environment. It's like, oh, I just need money, get me money. It's a coming alongside people and their dreams, whether that's to own a home for the very first time, whether it's parents that are helping their kids because they're expecting their grandbabies and they want to get into their first home, whether it's like my one client who wants to build homes for other families coming into, whether it's retirement or even coming into the nation. And again, wealthy investors who say, I want safe investments. And a private mortgage can yield interest from, in this market, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11%, depending on the type of mortgage. Yeah. And so, especially if it's a first mortgage, it's backed by the actual property and the home, the value, even in a declining market, doesn't decline that much. It's a very safe investment. And so a lot of people find that this type of investment is a powerful strategy for solid returns. And like you said it, which I loved, is actually using their capital to help people. So that is what I do at the mortgage group. And like you said in the beginning of the podcast, which I really appreciated, our ability to learn and grow and to adapt is our superpower as humans. And at the mortgage group, they really are a forerunner in learning curves and technology growth and helping us as brokers do what we do better, but ultimately to serve the client in whatever capacity they are coming to us with. But we're encouraged to always keep the learning going. And in the changing environments we're in, with where the economy has gone, and most of these places lately have been, you know, unprecedented. Never before have we seen these kinds of things happen, you know, especially with the rising interest rates. Lenders are changing their policies all the time. The government of Canada is and the regulatory bodies are trying to be more favorable with lending parameters and first-time home buyer rules. And so we are forced to stay on top of our game, learning, okay, what are the changing factors that we're dealing with regulatory wise, but what are the changing factors that home buyers are dealing with, and how can we integrate those issues, and how can we do better, and how can we grow, and how can we adapt? And I've been in a few different types of areas of focus in my life and career paths, so to speak, but I can't say that I've ever been in the type of environment that has caused me to grow and learn and adapt and develop more than being in the mortgage industry. So
I love it. That was a hell of a first answer, Jessica.
I'm sorry.
Oh my God. Prying information out of you is not going to be difficult, which is what we're looking for. Something that I am curious about, you said you had a client in the East Coast, so clearly you can do remote work. Are you focused mainly on Simcoe County, or are you all over Canada? How does that work?
Well, it's a great question, because this is a local resident who I knew from here and actually ended up having to go out there for work and then began to build the homes. And so the original relationship and connection started right here in Simcoe County. And but you see, the beauty is some people don't always stay right in Simcoe County. They decide, oh yeah, my family is out east or my family is out west and I want to get out there. Can you still help me out there? And with the mortgage group, we are coast to coast, so we are able to broker mortgages anywhere in Canada. And there is regulatory licensing and stuff, but our brokerage allows us to do that. But the bulk of my focus is where I'm domiciled, which is right here in Simcoe County and the surrounding region. So I'm serving, you know, a little bit north of York region, all the way up south, sometimes down into the city, but it's really in the main hub of this area. And it's personal. I often will go to clients' homes, but in this day and age, and again, post-COVID, we are virtual. We can do our business completely virtually. And I often would meet people on Zoom if they are a little bit of a ways away. And everybody's schedule is pretty hectic these days. So my job is to make it the most easiest for you as a client, as a borrower, as a relationship connection. What's the best for you? How can we connect? Do you want me to come and have coffee, come to your home, be with you, or do you like the virtual? And it makes it very convenient.
I love it. Let's talk about, I say this a few times, every question on here has its purpose, but some of them I think are a little bit more valuable than the others, at least for me, selfishly, based on my own self-interests. And I am a storyteller, and I am fascinated with other people's storytelling. Being in the marketing world, that's essentially what it is. You distill it down to its core. It's storytelling, essentially, from one human or group of humans to another one or group of humans, something that can impact them in some way. We're all telling stories at some point, but the backstory is very interesting. I just love, everybody kind of goes on their own Lord of the Rings journey, kind of throughout their own life. They have their own version of it, right? Everybody's looking for the ring, and they have to go through Mordor and all that kind of stuff. So I'm wondering what your Lord of the Rings story is. What brought you to pivoting during COVID to become a broker, mortgage in the mortgage world?
Such a great question. So I have so for about 15 years, I was in the business world, a little bit of different like flavors in there, but the bulk, just a little over 12 years of my life was spent in finance, banking, high net worth, private wealth management world. And eventually in the crescendo of my career in the hedge fund world. So a lot of different assets or aspects and facets of the finance side of things, and made it through 2 market crashes and seen a whole lot on that side. And I was at a place in my life and I had a lot of different interests and extracurricular activities that I was doing, and involved a lot with young people and youth and helping people and outreaches with community projects. And I felt like I wanted a change in my life. And I pivoted at that stage into some not-for-profit work. I hit the mission field for a lengthy period of time and did a lot of domestic outreach missions, working with food banks and food kitchens, missionary organizations that do send people abroad and all over the nations. I spent some time overseas in a different few bases myself, did some work in America as well. And I just found a lot of fulfillment in that, and had really found the ability to help people in a different facet was so many words, but really fulfilling. And understanding how to help people and grow their wealth and preserve wealth and make people lots of money is great. But also helping people, whether they have money or not, and making community impact, which is the people groups, right? That brought a dimension that I think was something that I really enjoyed spending time and pouring out in. And so when COVID hit and the ability to travel completely evaporated, it was, a necessary pause. And while I had, chose a voluntary pause at one point in my life to say, okay, I'm going to pause this season and branch into this season. Well, that season became an automatic pause. I had no real opportunity to do much else. We couldn't even go outside, much less help anybody. So I had always had an interest in real estate and just liked the idea of it, and had thought, well, if I ever want to pivot again or do some other things on the side, maybe I'll get into real estate. But just because of the locational requirements of real estate, I thought, well, mortgage brokering is also connected with real estate, and it's really in the industry, but there is the ability to be able to be mobile, and I have the finance background, so maybe I should think about taking my mortgage brokerage license. And so I started to pursue that, but it wasn't really a hard and fast thing. It was like, well, we'll just see. But lo and behold, when COVID decided to shut the world down, I had just recently taken my exam and thought, well, I guess this is the time to pursue this. And I knew a couple of people in the industry, and I just called them up and I said, well, I got my mortgage license, and I didn't think that this would happen so soon, but I'm thinking about getting into the industry. And, my heart has always been to help people. And now to be able to have had both sides of the world, like knowing the high finance, private wealth management, investing, and wealthy investors love to do great work like I was doing on the other side, and then being the hands and feet on the other side and seeing the fulfillment in that. And I thought, well, this is an interesting development where I felt as if I could bridge the two worlds together. And that began to unfold in just that way, where I was able to really walk alongside people who were going through a hard time or having to maybe sell their house and downsize, but knowing the care of that, where I was helping move them because I was the one who was available. Now I'm the one that's dealing with the finance side, and I understand all the bank world and all. I know how to translate that scary world of terms and paperwork and requirements and say, don't worry, this is all good. You're fine. I'll do this. And it was like I could see their shoulders and their anxiety just go like, and so when I was able to find that mix, it just began to be very exciting for me. And I realized, this is a value add piece that I never really expected, because I didn't know how the two worlds would blend together, and yet they have. And still, again, tapping into the ability to provide valuable investment opportunities for highly wealthy people, and yet still serve the ones who are believing on a dream to get their first home. And in this day and age, that seems impossible, but yet I help people do it all the time. And that is just like, I mean, we cry. You had mentioned when we just first got on the call that sometimes these sessions bring very, emotional responses out of people. But, I cry with the people who are celebrating the miracle that happened and they're getting their first home, and sometimes it's not easy. And there is a hard conversation that we have to have about, downsizing, or here's a way to bring a good solution. And even though it's not what you want, here's what we can do. And then being able to walk them through that is where it helps me to be fulfilled. But that's the journey of getting here. And I didn't see it coming, but it seemed to be finding me along the way.
Sometimes life works like that, and it turns out maybe not what we wanted, but like the old song says, got what we need. And it turns out what I needed was better than what I wanted. It seems like you're pretty happy about it. I mean, you're very passionate in your speak. You enjoy doing what you're doing?
Oh, yeah. There's fulfillment. All the things we do in life, as I'm sure you can relate, they come with challenges. There's only so much I could control. If I had the money, then I would probably give it to everybody. But there are parameters and there are roadblocks, and we have economies that do their own thing, and I can't control interest rates. So these things make what I do challenging and difficult. But there's always going to be that in everything we do. There's always limitations and issues that we have to face. But to me, I love being able to still do what I do and help people go through the how, what, and why, but most especially find the way through it. It's like everybody might be telling you no, but we're going to find the yes. We're going to find the yes. And if it's not yes right now, we'll figure it out in 6 months. We'll make a plan and we'll get there. We're going to get the yes. This is not about no. This is about when. And that's, I think, the thing that really drives me, because most people, and I don't even want to generalize, but I think life deals a narrative that we have sometimes been forced to believe, or just choose to believe, is that nobody cares. And I do care. I can't help but care. It's my DNA. I cared so much that I set aside what I couldn't care enough about to care about things more. And when I am in this world, it's like, because I care, we will find a way. And I think that brings refreshing for a lot of people who've met up against situations where people just haven't been willing to go the extra mile.
Well said. If you're ever looking for another career, you could get into TED Talks, Jessica. You kill. You're stealing the show here. This is my show. You're doing great. No, I appreciate it. It's great information. Something that I want to talk about real quickly, if you could just touch on a couple of points, is education is something that we double down on. Community is the thing, and we want to elevate the community by providing good people to other good people. But quality information as knowledge is certainly the thing that has driven my life forward the most. When I can find a key to that lock,
that's
sometimes
so good.
Magic can happen, right? So myths and misconceptions are out there all the time. I have suboptimal information in my head. I'm making suboptimal decisions and not living life as full as I could. So there are certainly people out there right now, through ignorance, through lack of opportunity, through whatever it is, that are thinking certain things about mortgages that maybe we could help clarify for them. So no better person to ask than the person that deals with these what is the word I'm looking, objections and myths and misconceptions regularly. Are there one or two that you could point out for us that you could help clarify for the audience that could be thinking something that's not serving them?
Yes, I love the way you articulated all of that. The common misconception and myth is, oh, you don't want a mortgage broker. They charge money to do what the bank will do for free. And that is just not true. In its generality, mortgage brokering does come with fees at certain times in certain instances and aspects, but that's always disclosed up front. And for all intents and purposes, a typical and traditional mortgage that a bank would offer you does not come with any mortgage brokerage fees. So you are getting a value and a service, personalized, custom tailored, at no charge. The banks are the ones, or the lenders are the ones that pay the mortgage brokers through our mortgage brokerage. And that's how we get paid. So our service is available to you, and we're not like on the time clock punch at 5 p.m. we go home. We work all the hours that is necessary. And if you call me up and you say, oh, I just had to put a bully bid to win this house, and I only have a 3-day condition of finance, I need to know I've got this approval, then we're the ones that serve you and work around the clock to see that happen. And
whereas you wouldn't get that from a bank.
You wouldn't get that from a bank. And we don't, it's not this automatic charge and this expensive fee. If we start dealing in the private space, then there's fees, but that's something that you would have no matter where you go. So the number one point is the myth, oh, if you use a mortgage broker, they're going to charge you extra and they premium your rates, or you're not going to get better rates, when the opposite is true. We typically don't have fees, and we have much better relationships with lenders. We do a lot of business as a team with different lenders. We get discretionary pricing, and often we get promotional pricing that is not widely available on the market. And so we can negotiate for rates. We have a lot of ability to do a lot of things that you wouldn't be able to do on your own, that a bank wouldn't be able to do for you, or just your traditional efforts.
So can we say that if I come to you for a mortgage, I can expect, in most cases, maybe not all, I don't want to generalize across the board, but in most cases, I can expect to get, I mean, for me, stress is a big thing. So a reduced level of stress, because I have, like, I always call them, I don't know if you're familiar with mountain climbing, but you have a Sherpa when you go up Mount Everest, and this Sherpa carries all your stuff and guides you up the perfect path so that you don't die and you get up there. That's what I look at.
Dying is good.
Yeah. That's what I look at experts as. It's like, there's going to be some mountain climbing, whatever hard thing we're doing in our life. I want a Sherpa to go with me. Yes. Carry my stuff, help me on the way. So you're going to give me the expert advice. You're going to help me navigate through it. You're hopefully, in most cases, going to pick the better option for me that I'm maybe not even aware of. And in many cases, get me a mortgage at a higher value or a reduced cost than me going directly to the bank. Correct. So in most cases, going to a mortgage broker or agent would be a higher quality experience across the board than me going directly to the bank. I love the way you just said that. A higher quality experience, 100%. And probably tremendous value add, because what you pinpointed in the beginning is stress. That's the big one for me. I will pay for reduced stress. Right? And if you're getting that for free in the service anyways, why would you not choose that? And
home buying and mortgage, even if you already own the home, but you're refinancing, documentation process is very tedious
It's a pain in the butt.
onerous. And so, and I can't tell you how many times, you know, it'll say, we need this, this, and this document. And 3 of the 4 documents are versions of that, but not the right version of that, or it's missing a date, or it's missing a name, or because it's a screenshot and not a formal document. And that can be very frustrating for people. So like you said, and that I'm interested to know if you're a mountain climber, but that Sherpa example, you know, sometimes I liken it to, you know, would you go to a general practitioner to get brain surgery? But if you're going to climb Mount Everest, you want to celebrate the victory and not die. So make sure you're equipped to go. And that is the premium example that you use there, because that's exactly what it is. A lot of people don't know what they don't know, which is very harmful, because that could be what leads them to fall off the cliff. And I just recently had an experience where I'd worked with a couple, and we were in the process, and then they found a home and they really wanted to buy it. It was a little bit higher in their budget. So they pulled information off the internet on reasonable rates and did their own calculation. And then they put an offer in. And when they came to me and I said, you know, these numbers are a little bit out of whack. And they, well, we did this scenario and it worked. And they ended up calculating their interest rate based on a different amortization that was not available to them. And they didn't know that that was a part of the way it's calculated. So we can be very smart and very quick and sharp with what we're doing. But these things that we don't know could make or break what we think could be a deal. And that's where a broker would protect you, and a broker will serve you. And I can't speak for every broker, but I can certainly speak for me. And the brokerage industry, I think in general, the organic development of it had this at the core of its motivation is, we want to serve you. We want to serve you in ways that you can't serve yourself, or would take so much time and effort to try, it doesn't make it valuable for you. Right. And then, you know, the rest is history.
I say that often. It's like, we all are capable of doing all these things. You're capable of being a marketer and a podcaster and whatever else I do. And I'm capable of being a mortgage agent. We all have the same raw ingredients, just out of the nature of being human. But to get good at any one thing is very difficult. To become an expert at something, like a real expert, the true definition of how I define that word anyway. We're talking, this person's been doing this for a very, very long time, has been through every complication possible, basically, and come at it from all angles. That can take a lifetime. So if I want to go and, you know, renovate my basement or sell my house or, you know, build a helicopter, it's like, yeah, I have the raw ingredients to figure those things out. But what is going to be the cost of that mentally, physically, financially, the ripple effect on my family, on my friends? It can go very wide and very deep. So I use the resource of money and just look at it as that, a tool to help increase the quality of my life by making the experience a little easier, a little less arduous than it has to be. And I think that's one of the greatest things about money, is that it provides me access to knowledge that I would have taken me ages to access.
Yes.
Go to a real estate agent to sell your house, access to knowledge and experience to get something done quickly, move on to the next, a mortgage agent, a contractor to build my house, whatever it is. That's what I like using my money for. And it really speeds up where you're trying to get to and reduces stress, which is one of, if not my main focus in life. Mind, body, stress, all kind of one thing. Because if those things are out of whack, I'm not the right me, Jessica, and you don't want to be around me.
I love it. I love it, because if this is part of the good you, we want more of this.
Okay. Well, then I need to keep my stress reduced, talk to a lot of experts, stay in the gym, and keep doing something meaningful. Those are the boxes I need to check. But let's pivot from business a little bit. Let's talk about what puts a smile on your face outside of the work you do, because you've literally been smiling for 40 minutes, which is awesome. Great smile, by the way.
Thank you.
What puts a smile on your face when you're not working, when you're not helping people? What do you get up to?
So I do a lot of things. I love health and fitness, although I have to say, you know, the COVID situation put a big wrench in that plan. But
Sure.
the first part was wonderful because it was just all about fitness and health when I was having lots of downtime. And then building this business and having it take off, and you know, that was a learning curve that just took me away from being able to focus so much on that. And stress was a big factor. So learning how to navigate that was a big thing through fitness and health. But in general, I love a big fan of Orange Theory Fitness. I don't know, shout out to them for free. It's a wonderful high intensity training system that's got a lot of great science. I'm very curious and I love science. I love understanding how the body works. And when you get these hacks that just open up like effectiveness, it's like, whoa. And I saw a lot of body transformation happening, and I did my first triathlon, and I won some fitness awards. So that really fires me up. But I love people and I love serving, and I have a heart to bring change and to see change and to maybe be bold and venturous, to go where a lot of people won't go. And sometimes that means getting our hands dirty. But if a heart gets cleaned up in the meantime, what a blessing and value in that. And so I serve. Right now, I'm the chairperson for an organization called Abuse Hurts, but I didn't start out as the chair. I didn't even start out on the board. I just started as a volunteer. Abuse Hurts, their base is in Newmarket, Ontario, Canada, but we serve the whole region of especially Simcoe County. We have a lot of connections, and the primary purpose of the agency is awareness against the instance and impacts of abuse and how we can reduce that. But we have a lot of practical boots on the ground programs that are helping women coming out of crisis situations, getting into shelters, transitioning out of shelters into their first home, escaping. But we help tons of children. We help people. We do toy drives every year. At Christmas, one of our biggest supporters is Q107, and they all are now doing the 50-50 draw, but they used to do the toy drives. And that, even though it's once a year at Christmas, it takes a lot of months during the year to queue up for that. So we collect toys, we get sponsorships, we get donations, we filter and we sort and channel the resources. We do a lot of community events in the York region area around where the head office is, but even in Toronto and even as far up as Barrie as well. And even higher, we work with the First Nations band. I think in some area in Simcoe County, a big service there. And we do a lot of just working with families, working with women, working with children who have come out of abusive situations. But in the community, it's, it looks like a fun event. We'll put on a fun event. We'll invite the community in. We'll make that awareness available. And then the work that we do sometimes, sometimes if a woman or a family is going through an abusive situation, it's hard to talk about. And making a relationship to bring the stigma down of having a safe place to have a conversation is hard. But when you, just like we're doing here, and even the goal of your whole podcast about being a good neighbor is that relational connection brings barriers down. And then when they learn about what we do, they're like, hey, I'm in trouble. I need help. Can you help us? And making community connections has been one of the things that I've done that's been, really fun, because it's how can we build community partnerships. So we work with shelters, and I'll go and, connect with people from the shelters to say, how can we promote your services, or how can we build bridges in the community to make sure that people that need this are having access to it? Because again, it's what you don't know. And we've done a lot of special projects that, again, they're fun to me, even though they're based on not the most wonderful circumstance, but the outcomes become wonderful when we get to see them, right? So we've done special projects where we've uncovered gaps. What are the barriers to accessing the services that are available in the community? And how can we make everybody be able to do what they do better? And at the same time, creating that experience for somebody who desperately needs help. How can we make that experience better? So that's what I also spend some time on the side. And we do fun events where I'm just having a euchre tournament, a fundraiser euchre tournament coming up in a couple of weeks. But the toy drive is a big deal. And we do kids events. We have a mascot called Hug 'em Bear. And I will say that I'm the only chairperson in the history of the organization that has been willing to get in that big, outfit and wave and hug kids in the community settings. And to me, it's just like, they don't know who I am, but to them, this is a hero. And they're just, having a game-changing moment. And so I like to have fun, and sometimes bringing joy and light and laughter into a dark situation is what creates a ray of hope for people. And so that's kind of what I do for fun a lot, in a lot of different ways, and just in any kind of way that I can help, even in the community, different stuff, different outreaches, children's programs, whatever.
I love it. I love it. You are a saint, Jessica. Let me ask you this.
Sure, you're not.
Okay, so let's talk about that then. Give me one or two things that you just do for selfishness, just for pleasure, just something you want to do. Like, you binge watch Netflix, or do you like donuts? Do you go skydiving? Do you?
Oh, well, I did skydive. I definitely did skydive. Again, the fitness thing is a biggie, but I love trying new adventure things. I've gotten less adventurous in the days, but I've done skydiving. I did paragliding. I did
paragliding.
Yes. So I had the blessing to go to Switzerland, went to one of the highest mountains there. Well, I don't know if it was the highest mountain. It is the Alps, but where we were at, it was
a big damn mountain.
It was a big damn mountain. You got it. And this thing that you do, you literally have to run and fill the parachute up with air, and then literally just keep running off the mountain. And I'm like, I have officially run off the side of a mountain. And it was just like the most bizarre thing that my brain ever had to process, but I didn't die. I didn't die. And it was so beautiful. It was up in Zermatt, if you know that place. It's actually where the Matterhorn Mountain is. And the Matterhorn Mountain is the little mountain. It's not little, but it's the picture of the mountain on the Toblerone bar. So this was the little village. It's a very quaint place. You're not allowed any it's only electric vehicles or animals. You can't even bring up gas. They preserve the ecosystem, and it's really far up. You can drive certain amount of the way, and then you have to take these little trolleys up. It's a long time to get up there, but it's a beautiful, beautiful place, and it's in a valley, and of course on the mountains. But then this paragliding thing, we hung up there for probably, I don't know, maybe felt like almost an hour before we eventually made it down. It was just like, so I love that. I jumped out of a plane. I would say in my older age, I've maybe lost a little bit of nerve. I used to love.
When you say older, what are we saying here, Jessica? Because I have an age in my head, and I don't know how close I am to it.
I'll give you one free guess. I'll give you one free guess.
Like, I'm putting you at like 33 or something.
I love you. I am about to celebrate my 47th birthday in October.
Get out of here.
Yeah. Otherwise, how would I have all that time to do like 15 years here and 15 years there?
How's it adding up? It's like a child prodigy is what I was thinking.
Yeah. Well,
good for you.
Grateful. I think what keeps me young is my adventure, my curiosity, but my willingness to give and always want to
keeps
do
you
better.
Yeah,
keeps you young. So those are some fun stuff. I love snowboarding. I want to learn how to surf. I did snowboarding in Switzerland, and then I came back to Canada. I was like, I can never snowboard here again in my life.
Which just doesn't meet the standards anymore.
Are you kidding? These are like speed bumps right here. So,
you gotta go out west now.
Right? And I've never been out west. The farthest I have been, but only in the summer. The farthest I've been was Calgary. I went up to Banff, beautiful, and Lake Louise, and all those mountains are gorgeous, but never been there in the winter. So that would be an adventure for me. But I love traveling. I love seeing the sights. Part of the blessing of being able to travel around and do meaningful work is the places that it's carried me to. So it's always been rich and rewarding, but I'd love to see the west coast of Canada. And yep, I'm a foodie, probably eat way too much of it, hence the need to be overactive in fitness.
give me a favorite food snapshot real quick.
It's not even possible, but I would say
one thing. Give me the culture then.
If culture. Not the okay. I would probably say Asian.
Okay, good. Love
it. There's so many different varieties there, right? And I love Thai food, but I also love Chinese food, Vietnamese food. Vietnamese food is awesome.
Yep.
So good. But I love French food. I love cheese. Maybe the one thing that wins is cheese, but cheese from everywhere. And the strong cheese like Roquefort and blue cheese.
You're awesome, Jessica. Okay, now that we've talked about the fun, let's do the full other end of the spectrum and talk about the painful parts of life.
Oh, now, yes.
We talk about this for a very specific reason, and I won't go into too much context because I just don't want to talk everybody's head off. I think when you look at social media, you get one glamorous side of life that's even edited, shinied up, not a true representation of reality. And then you go on the news and the pendulum swings to the other extreme. And for me, the messiness of life, the real nuts and bolts of it is found in the middle. And I think there should be and can be value derived from both the benefits of being alive, like the positive, and the negative. Actually, I would argue that I've derived a lot more value from the painful sides of things, because I think human beings aren't designed to grow rapidly all the time. I think we have spurts of rapid growth, especially in our younger years. But the older we get, maybe not complacency takes over, but certainly energy conservation. The body wants to stay as it is. The mind wants to stay as it is in many cases, but through necessity, through pain, we have that opportunity for rapid growth. Again, it's certainly been the case in my life. It seems to be in countless books. It seems to be the experience of countless people. Mm-hmm. So we want to be a part of that, of spreading a little bit more awareness, putting the spotlight on, if you're going through something shitty right now, it could be the thing that you've been waiting for. It could be the thing that you need if you choose it to be so. Certainly the hardest moments in my life, or the greatest things in my life, have been the hardest things. I think love, wealth, business, entrepreneurship, fitness, mental health, learning, difficult things. I think all of these things are very, very hard. And I think the reward comes through doing hard things. Yeah. I don't think the best things in life are given through ease. I remember Denzel saying, ease is a greater threat to progress than hardship. And what a line. So we like to ask the guests on the show. We won't go too deep into this because we are going a little bit long here.
Okay.
But I'm ready to cry with you if you are.
Oh, I hope not. I hope not. I think I can keep it together.
Any trials and tribulations, personal or business hardships that you've been through that when you went through probably sucked in the moment, as hard tends to have a symptom and it doesn't feel good. But when you look back in hindsight, you wouldn't remove that ingredient from the recipe that has become you, because it's led you to being who you are today.
Well, it's a really good question. And this podcast, I think, is an excellent depiction of the after effects of looking back and saying I wouldn't change it, because I would say that the transition into the mortgage group, becoming the mortgage broker, when I gave you my summary of how this was born, it seemed very wonderful. Like, oh, this is a great segue. This is a beautiful transition. And but I'm looking back saying, oh my God, this was the best thing. but we get that perspective and insight after the fact. Definitely. And I can tell you that going into it, as I'm sure with yourself too, and many of our listeners and the whole world, you know, COVID was a very disarming season, and it brought a lot of fear and uncertainty to the world. And for me, of course, who is ever expecting that? But, you know, I was on a trajectory where I didn't see such a radical change happening. And just before COVID broke out, I really had this unction that at the time I was serving in a big project in the States. And I knew that I needed to get back to Canada. But to me, that felt like I was, you know, walking away from everything wonderful that I had just, you know, poured the last decade of my life out into. And opportunities were opening up for me, and there seemed to be a path that was leading to great things. And I kind of had my world not so much set, but I could see the vision and I liked where it was going. And then all of a sudden, you know, in advance, I'm getting this like gnawing in my stomach. You need to go back to Canada. You need to go back to Canada. And so I, you know, heeded that, but it was a very disillusioning season for me. And then just literally 3 months later, COVID broke out, and then we got into lockdowns. And you know, I wasn't thinking, oh yeah, this is great, I'm going to become a mortgage broker, because to me, that just wasn't even a wonderful idea. And I wasn't even able to think about that because I was blinded by grieving what seemed to be the death of my life as I knew it. And it looked like, you know, I was coming back to Canada, and I ended up having to move back in with my parents because I had a sick parent, and I knew I needed to help them. And while that's a very worthy cause and a wonderful blessing to be able to do, I am, you know, a 40-year-old something person who has, you know, invested 10 years of my life doing wonderful stuff. And now it's all for nothing. And I walked away from, you know, some of the biggest opportunities that were awaiting me to come and now be locked down in a tiny bedroom in the back of my parents' house away in Canada where nobody knows me and can see me. And I literally felt like it was all suicides, emotional, career, like all the things. And it was such a dark season that I just never could have seen. If you had told me that this day, Jeff, we would be sitting here on a Good Neighbor podcast, which sings the song of my heart, talking about a celebration, and that I'm on the podcast because I was nominated by somebody because I'm a small business trying to help neighbors and small businesses do something great, I would have been like, get out of my face. You know, get out of my face. This is not true. Right now, I need to wallow in the fact that I feel like I'm going to die here and there is no hope. And all the things that I've ever done have now come to nothing. It was such a crisis. And to add insult to injury, I ended up catching COVID, which was so unusual because I barely went out. And I had a terrible experience with it. And there, as I'm sure many can relate to, there was a lot of thoughts about it and a lot of emotional feelings, and they caused a large separation in the family. And it was just altogether, like, I can't even go into the details to capture the emotion of it, but it felt like the end of the world for me.
Yeah. Can I ask you, first off, thank you for sharing that. I can see.
I'm going to cry. But yeah, ask me, please.
It was a tough time. There's no question about it. Can I ask you what you did to move through it?
Well, definitely the Orange Theory was part of it.
Goodness.
I was just going to say
this. maybe give you a moment anyways. I'm addiction counselor on the weekend in a great place called Cornerstone Recovery. I've been there for a few years now. I busted both my legs in my late 20s, and that led to a dependency on pain medication. So I went through my own version of it, saw it in my family's lives, developed some skills along the way to get my own life back to a level of quality that I was looking for. And that led to me wanting to give back and help these people get through it. And it's seeing what they went through COVID, especially being locked down and having access to very little. Like, they got hit very, very hard. So I didn't have the exact same experience as you, especially you moving from different countries, the amount of isolation. But it's amazing when I go and I try to help people at that facility. We have our 12 steps, we have our philosophies, we have our talk therapy that we use. But I start with everybody, every single time, whether it's a 14-year-old or a 70-year-old, male or female, doesn't matter. We got to get the body right, which will help get the mind right. And then we can start doing the talk. Because if your body is internally chaotic, that'll make your mind internally chaotic. It'll just be shit talking you constantly. And now try to sit in a session and derive value from talk therapy. That seems like a very arduous task and with a low success rate. So fitness, if someone were to say, you know, if I become very successful or whatever it is in my teams now at the clinic on my business, when people ask, you know, what is it that has led to whatever they're looking for in my life, every single time, eat, sleep, move. That's the three.
Yes. Well, and I love how you said that, you know, your mind can really mess with you and it's
plague you.
Yeah. So obviously getting myself in, you know, health and activating those endorphins, but that was a tremendous learning experience. I had always had a passion for health and fitness, learning it, understanding the science. I'm like tapping into this beautiful body that God created. I believe that God created us and that it's magnificent. And we'll spend the whole rest of time on earth just unpacking and discovering the wonders of what can be done if we just apply ourselves. So there was a lot of that. But to that note, you know, I have always had faith. I'm a believer in Jesus. But I think in this moment, what happened really was there was such an alignment and a convergence of where faith became real on a level that was what brought me out. And, you know, sometimes we have faith and then it doesn't really apply or doesn't really touch down to bring changes in our life, but then it does. And I've had a lot of experience, a lot of pain, a lot of grief, and I've always remained hopeful and kept pressing through, knowing a better day would come. But I can tell you that in this moment, it was like a rock bottom where I wasn't sure if a better day would come. And so as I began to get better sleep, put my body into better alignment physically and health and mentally and emotionally, and pull on real faith that says, okay, God and Jesus, you can make the hope real. You can do what nobody else can do. And I need that now. And it was like as if I was meeting him for the first time, like, okay, if you're real, I need to know it now. And it's not like I didn't, but sure enough, you know, hope came alive and I began to just know there will be a better day. I have the power inside me to put one foot in front of the other and to just know, like, I'm here, I'm going through the motions, but I don't want to die inside. And kind of like that Mount Everest example that you gave is you're climbing a mountain and you might die and you feel like you're going to die. But if you tap into the equipment that you have and the Sherpa and the knowledge and the knowing and the faith to believe that you can do this. And, you know, I can tell you, this is not about, I can do anything, but there is a scripture that I cling to that I'll tell you became real in that moment. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Well, you know what? People might shoot that off and not know anything, but I can tell you that if it wasn't for that, I did not have a good outlook, and I'm such a hopeful, passionate person. So to not have that scared me. And the world was in crisis. Family was in crisis. I was in crisis. Sickness. That sickness is terrible. And I was getting bombed, but all the things that you said, and just tapping into the true faith that God is real, and he really does bring a hope that is unexplainable in like words, but it really helped me pull around. And now, like, even the fear, I had so much fear of launching into business for self and not knowing where the deals were going to come from and not knowing how I was going to provide for myself. And then boom, it just began to happen. And I believed that it could be possible, even though I was scared, but I made the choice. And I think that's the thing. Even you talked about addictions. When you are helping people come out of addictions, it really there has to be a choice.
Oh yeah.
The choice.
The main thing.
Right? And that's what it is. It's like, I'm going to choose to believe this is not the end. I'm going to choose to believe that there will be better days, that there can be better days, that this will not be my end, and that everything I've done to this point will not have been for nothing. And that turned into the launching pad and the platform with which sprung me forth into this new season that, I'm 5 years in, almost 5 years into the mortgage business, but I feel like I'm just scratching the surface of all that's to come. And, I could never change that, because it has forged in me something so authentically real that I just, like, now it's like I know the sky is the limit, and the only one that can limit me is myself, because there will always be a way. There will always be a way. And I'm sure your life can testify to that too, because you're now counseling people who struggled as you struggle, but there was a time that you weren't sure you could get out of your struggle either.
Sure.
And now look at you, being a neighbor.
I appreciate you sharing that story, Jessica. It was beautiful and hard to do, I could tell. So thank you for that. Pivoting a little bit towards business for these last couple of questions. If you could answer, so we're putting you on stage here, totally different environment now. We're going from strong emotions to pressure sales tactics.
Wow.
Okay. We got you. There's 1,000 people in the audience. You're on stage and they say you got 90 seconds. What is it you want to say to your ideal clientele? What does you want them to know?
Navigating any type of home purchases, financing, basically the next stage of your life, the most important stage of your life as a homeowner, you need somebody to walk with you in the journey, to navigate what you don't know and to help you, but most especially to care for what matters most. This is your home. This is your family. This is your future. This is your legacy. Somebody that appreciates that wants to contribute to that, and to seeing the best things for the fulfillment of those dreams, is who you need in your corner. And I want to be that person. I care about the outcome, and I'm dedicated to accomplishing the details to bring us to that outcome. And my commitment is to always do that by bringing peace, ease of mind, and reducing the stress so that you can focus on what's most important. And as anyone here knows, buying a house, moving from one house to another house, downsizing a house, it's a daunting task with a million moving parts all alone. Change is hard to navigate. So allow me to be part of your change process and lighten the load, so there's a lot more ease in it.
Wow. Talk about navigating through a difficult situation, kind of just put you through the ringer there, asked you about super painful things, and you were so forthcoming and transparent, super strong emotions brought to the forefront. And then I'm like, all right, let's snap on a dime and go into your sales pitch for 90 seconds. Wow. That is skill set. That is a rare skill set, though, to be able to pivot from one to the next. That's why we have these questions designed in that way. Because honestly, at the end of the day, as much as this is about connecting with people and learning and all of these types of benefits, if I'm going to work with a business person and I'm watching something or experiencing something and they're able to go from one strong emotion to the next and keep it together and keep me intrigued and keep me focused, because at the end of the day, this show is about the audience as much as this show is designed to promote and share your expertise. It is about the audience. That's who we're catering to here. And you just displayed like ninja level expertise to go from strong in the shit emotions to I'm going to let it all out and everybody see it. This is me authentically, take it or leave it, to now business time. I'm back in the batter's box, ready to hit a fucking home run.
Thank you for that vote of confidence, I guess, because, it's not a pitch. It's just facts.
Oh, that just came out. And the way I look at it is like you see somebody in full business mode, like they got that shark, attire on, that shark uniform on, and they're in business mode. But when you take somebody to this super raw emotional state and then ask them to pivot into something like that, I have found more often than not always the case, but more often than not, you are going to get the raw ingredients of what they actually want to say, rather than, before I go into a presentation, I want to say all the perfect things. How am I going to get them to buy as quickly as possible? Like, these are the way business people think sometimes. Yeah. Whereas when you are having a super emotional conversation with somebody, you often just get their truth coming out of it. And that's what it came across to me. So well done, Jessica. How do we get a hold of you after this epic show? Jesus, they don't normally go like this. They go well, but not quite like this. So you killed it. How can people connect with you? Because I imagine you're going to impact a few people.
Well, thank you so much. My phone number, am I allowed to give my phone number?
Absolutely. If you're comfortable with it.
905-906-7783 is my number. My email is jessica@capitalconnection.me. And that's all one word, no S on the end of connection. So I'm the Capital Connection, capitalconnection.me. And my website is capitalconnection.me. So you can visit my website. If you want to reach me, email me, call me. If it's just for a second opinion on something, an idea, I'm happy to help. And adding value is what makes me thrive. So if I can do that for you, that would make my day.
You've been awesome. You allowed me to like turn you inside out, although you chose to do that. And thank you for choosing to do that inside out. Amazing. You've been awesome. It was a pleasure. I barely said anything and I enjoyed the heck out of this show. You need your own podcast, I think, is the learning lesson from this. TED Talk, podcast, go become a politician, something. Share your words. Talk more.
Thank
is basically
you,
what I'm getting here.
Thank you.
Pleasure for having you on the show, Jessica. I look forward to chatting with you again. This has been a blast.
Sounds great. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast Midhurst. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpmidhurst.com. That's gnpmidhurst.com or call 705-413-3775.